Shalom and greetings, brothers and sisters in Master Yeshua the Messiah, who have his testimony and guard his commandments. Brother Nicholas James Vanderlane here. Today is the 19th day of the 6th month on Yahweh Elohim's solar calibrated non-Gregorian 364-day calendar. The Gregorian equivalent is August 30th, 2023, and I'm here in Santorini, Greece, which is a giant volcano. And the reason for this impromptu video is to talk about the book of Revelation and the island of Santorini that I possibly identify in the book of Revelation. In Revelation, chapter 8, verse 8 and 9, John, he saw in his vision as if it were a great mountain burning with fire thrown into the sea. And a mountain burning with fire is a volcano. And after it was thrown into the sea, a third of the ships were destroyed, a third of the fishes died, and a third of the sea turned to blood. I said a third of the fishes of the sea, but it could be a third of the living creatures, which could include the humans that are inhabiting the island. So a third of all living in the Aegean Sea died. And also another thing, since I'm explaining this verses right here, it says a third of the ships. And Greece is known for their shipping, and also they have a lot of ferry ships. The Aegean Sea is known for having ships, ferry ships going from island to island. So it appears to me that this is speaking of this localized event. It could be speaking of a global event like Mauna Loa, and I'll talk about that at the end of this video. Mauna Loa, Hawaii, the largest mountain and the largest volcano in the world. That is currently active right now as it is having eruptions, minor eruptions, but there have been eruptions since December. But right now I want to focus on Santorini and the Aegean Sea, where John, I believe, saw the vision. And so what I hypothesize possibly as the fulfillment is that this volcano that you see behind me, Santorini Thera, the volcano here, is going to erupt again. A massive cataclysmic eruption. And I say this because John was only a couple islands away on the island of Patmos from Santorini. When John had received his vision, he was here on the island of Patmos in exile, and he had spent a lot of time in West Asia. It's the city of Ephesus right here, and so John was right here in Patmos when he received his vision of the book of Revelation. So he had spent a lot of time in West Asia in Ephesus. So this is a localized vision, and Santorini is just a few islands over. More than likely, John is speaking about a volcanic event, a cataclysmic volcanic event in the Aegean Sea. And later in this video, I'm going to be talking about the size of this eruption that he saw. It's more than likely a VEI 7 or greater, VEI 8 eruption, which is a huge eruption. Something has to be such a huge volcanic eruption to cause the events in the book of Revelation. So I don't believe that these events have happened yet. Some people might say it was Mount Vesuvius, but that was not, Mount Vesuvius was not in the sea, and it wasn't big enough. It was a small volcano compared to what's described that's going to happen in the book of Revelation. It wasn't a VEI 7 or VEI 8 eruption. And so I'm thinking that the book of Revelation, this part of the vision was a localized event. Local to the Aegean Sea. And mountain burning with fire is a volcano. When something is thrown into the sea, it makes a huge splash. That shockwave of that volcano is going to be like an explosion, underwater device exploding, and it's going to send a shockwave through the water, and it will kill a third of the fishes and a third of the life. And besides the shockwave under the sea, on top of the sea, there's going to be a huge tsunami that's going to be sent, and it's going to swallow up all of these mountains, all of these islands, and the coastlines. And also there's going to be ash. It's going to suffocate and kill people and bury people, and they're going to die there. And also there's going to be big stones that are going to be flying through the air, and also stone people with these huge stones. And it says also that all the islands are going to be removed from their place and no mountains are going to be seen. And if you've ever been into the Aegean Sea, the islands, they're all mountains in the sea. So when you see that verse that all the islands were removed out of their places and none of the mountains were found, likely it's speaking of these mountains, these islands in the Aegean Sea, which means that their GPS coordinates are no longer going to be where they say they once were. So that's why it's going to be a huge cataclysmic type volcano that's going to cause the islands to move out of their places and be found in a different location, not where they used to be. It is speaking of a VEI 8 event. A VEI 8 explosion would cause all the mountains to move out of their place. It would change everything in the Aegean Sea. It would be absolutely catastrophic in the judgment of Elohim on this earth. And then men would learn to fear Yahweh Elohim and keep his commandments. Now let me go ahead and share with you the verses. I'll take a deeper look and show you with that on the maps and everything else, and show you the history of the volcano, Santorini, and the explosion that it had. And it created this huge tsunami that hit Egypt. I'm sure it hit Cyprus. It hit the land of Israel and all on the Eastern Mediterranean. And so I'm going to go ahead and share about that. But I'm thinking, my hypothesis is that it was a localized event, and that's what he saw. That edited video footage that you just saw was filmed over a year and a half ago on the island of Santorini. I was there on the island of Santorini with my family, visiting my brother Thomas and my brother Messiah Yeshua Moran, both of them who were on the island of Santorini for vacation. About a week prior, each of them contacted me independently that they were both going to be on the island of Santorini. At that time, I was on the island of Patmos with my family, and I decided to take a ferry over to the island of Santorini to visit them and see them. And it was there on the island of Santorini where I developed that thought about Santorini being in the book of Revelation. And so I decided to record that impromptu video. And I had not yet used that video footage until now with this video, because just as you all know, a couple of days ago, an earthquake swarm hit Santorini Island area and also the Colombo volcano area. And with that new development happening, I decided to reach back in my archive, get that video footage, edited that video footage, and now I have a really important video with important information for you about the Santorini volcano prophecy, more than likely in the book of Revelation. Today is the 21st day of the 11th month on Yahweh Elohim's solar calibrated non-Gregorian 364-day calendar. The Gregorian equivalent is February 7th, 2025. I am currently on the island of Cyprus, the blessed island of Cyprus here in the Eastern Mediterranean. And this video is Santorini volcano prophecy in the book of Revelation. So this video is not sensationalized, and this is not a sensational video, because we are now in the 70th year of Jubilee of the real biological male Israelites. Not the Jewish state. Maybe 10% of Jews are biological Israelites. That's my hypothesis. But they are not the biological Israelites. Now, this year of Jubilee is also the 120th year of Jubilee of man since the creation. So if you haven't seen this video, watch this video, watch this video. And in my video 2 weeks ago, I did a video on volcanoes. I mentioned in this video that Moses prophesied in his last words in the book of Deuteronomy chapter 32 of a volcano that Yahweh Elohim is going to use to initiate judgment on the real Israelites. If you haven't seen this video, you need to watch it. It's only 2 weeks ago. Also, you need to watch this video right here and this video. You need to watch these videos. So in my video on the Song of Moses, here is the verse that is about the volcano that Yahweh is going to use to initiate judgment. For a fire is kindled in mine anger, and shall burn unto the lowest hell, and shall consume the earth with her increase, and set on fire the foundations of the mountains. The foundations of the mountains and the lowest hell, that's like below sea level. So that's what I'm saying, that Yahweh is going to be using a volcano, an underwater volcano, maybe Santorini, possibly, maybe the big island of Hawaii, possibly, maybe Iceland, possibly. But this is how I hypothesize what Yahweh is going to do. and it's going to consume the earth with her increase. And right now we're at an increased time of the earth. The grass, the green grass is all growing, all of the wheat is growing. So this is something to consider. So watch this video if you have not seen it. I hope to make an update next week on the developments of this video, but right now I'm doing a video on Santorini. So in the summer of 2023, I took my family to the 7 cities of Asia, the 7 congregations mentioned and recorded in the book of Revelation. This was a pretty cool video to do and really fun to watch. The kids had an amazing time touring Turkey. It was an amazing time. I recommend everybody do it if they get a chance to do it. And then after this, we took a ferry to the island of Patmos. And while on the island of Patmos, I published this video containing new revelations that I discovered in the book of Revelation that has never been taught before, that I have never seen taught before. It has amazing new info. Link to this video in the description. And after Patmos, we took a ferry to Chios, and then after Chios, we took a ferry to the island of Santorini. And as I said, after touring West Asia, which is Turkey, and the 7 cities of Revelation, and spending time on the island of Patmos, and while on the island of Santorini in the Aegean Sea, spending time in the Aegean, I ended up forming a hypothesis that some of the prophecy in the book of Revelation is speaking of a localized event to the Aegean Sea. So here is a map of the Aegean. Here's the Peloponnese. Here is Athens. Here is Patmos. John was right here on the island of Patmos. He had spent time here in what's now Kudasai, which is actually the city of Ephesus, right outside Kudasai. And John was here on the island of Patmos in the Aegean Sea when he got his revelation. Santorini is just a few islands over, as I shared in the intro. So I believe and understand that John had a local vision. In that vision, in the book of Revelation, John said that he saw a third of the trees were burned. Okay, and you need to know that right here, all here in Turkey, all here in the Peloponnese, is forests of trees. This is a picture that I took while driving here right outside Muzla, here in Turkey, on the way to Kos, and then from Kos went up to Patmos. So this whole area here is filled with forests, just as you see right here. What an amazing, beautiful area. If you have a chance to go, I suggest that you do. Here's a quick video footage of some of the thick forest that we saw. So when John said that he saw a third of the trees that were burnt from this event, it was likely a third of the trees that are around the Aegean Sea, of these forests that are all here in Turkey's coast and all here in the Peloponnese. So in John's vision, at the 7th bowl of wrath, in Revelation chapter 16, verse 20, John said he saw the islands move out of their places and no mountains were found, so they were not found in their location, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video. Again, he is likely talking about the islands of the Aegean Sea being moved. And the mountains that were moved possibly were the mountains on the coastal lands of Turkey and Greece, because these are all mountains right here on the outside. So he saw something. This makes the most sense of what John's vision was. It was a local vision to the Aegean Sea. And none of these cataclysmic events of the book of Revelation have yet happened. Despite some people saying that some of the book of Revelation was fulfilled before 70 and 70 Common Era, none of these cataclysmic events that I mentioned happened. So the book of Revelation is describing a cataclysmic event, a VEI 7 or 8 size event. VEI stands for Volcano Explosivity Index. And so you can see a chart here on how that looks. But that's exactly what Revelation is talking about. Revelation is talking about a cataclysmic VEI 7 or 8 size event. I forget where, but somewhere in the prophecies is a mention of the greatest earthquake ever that's ever going to happen in all of mankind. That might be in the book of Revelation or it might be in the book of Zechariah. For that to happen, it's going to be a VEI 8 maximum VEI 8 event. It's going to be something so huge. It might not be local to the land, the Holy Land of Israel. It might take place in the Aegean, but it's going to be something outrageously big that the world has never seen. Yahweh Elohim's judgment. He's going to be furious. You can read about it here and pause the video. Revelation chapter 16 and Revelation chapter 6. In Revelation chapter 6, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. What is that? That's an ash. That is volcano ash, or volcano spewing out the stuff that it spews out. I'm not a geologist, I can't say that word, but that material that it sprays out, getting into the atmosphere, causing the sun to go black and the moon to become blood. So that's going to happen. When the earthquake explodes, there's a great earthquake. When the volcano explodes, there's going to be a great earthquake, and that's what's going to happen. It says the stars fell unto the earth. That could be, it could happen at night, and it could be just hot lava falling to the earth. Okay, and then also the heavens departed as a scroll when it's rolled together. When the volcano explodes, it shoots up, and then it creates a big, like a scroll effect of the winds, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. So the only thing that can make every island move out of their places is like a VEI 8 size event. Something that huge. Maybe a 7, but definitely an 8 is going to do it. It's going to cause the mountains to move out. So probably something huge. And here we read in Revelation, the angel, seventh angel, poured out his vial into the air, and there came a great voice out of the temple of heaven, a throne, saying, "It is done." And there were voices, the thunders and lightnings, and there was a great earthquake, and every island fled away, and the mountains were not found. And there fell upon men a great hail out of heaven. So that would be like lava rocks coming down, and every stone was about a talent in weight. And men blasphemed God, Elohim, because the plague of the hail, for their plague thereof was exceedingly great. So you can see how Revelation 16 seems to be speaking of the same event as Revelation 6, even though this is at the 6th seal and this is at the 7th bowl. But you can see that it's basically speaking of the same event. Every mountain and the island were moved out of their places. Every island fled away, and the mountains were not found. They were not in their places. Okay? Great hail, thunders and lightnings, and a great earthquake. Great earthquake. The sun became black as sackcloth, and the stars fell to heaven. We have the hail, great hail out of heaven. So you can see that this is speaking of a cataclysmic event, an event of judgment on the earth. Huge. Not just a regular event, but a judgment type event, an apocalyptic event, and an event of the book of Revelation. So you can see this chart. This is one chart. You can, on the VEI index, size 7, the cubic meters. Look at the cubic meters here. So it's probably going to be something that's like this, like 67 cubic miles worth of material ejected from the volcano. It could be between 67 and 240. I doubt that it's going to be 600 cubic miles, but it's going to be something so big that's going to move the mountains, move the islands out of their places, okay? And that's what it's going to be. So speaking of Santorini and explosions, everybody is very familiar that Santorini Thera, the Thera volcano, it exploded around 1600 BCE. Geologists put that as a VEI 7 on the scale of VEI 7. So this this end time judgment one, it's probably going to be an 8, and nobody is ready for this. Not me, not anybody, unless you have Yahweh. The only way you're going to be prepared for this is if you have Yah. That's it. So I'm expecting an 8 on this event. When you read how bad it is in the book of Revelation, I'm going to say it's going to be an 8. All right, so it's going to be something like this or like that. So Krakatoa was 4.3. Santorini Thera in the 1600 BC was probably double that. And what's going to happen is probably going to be 10 times that size or maybe 100 times that size. We don't know, okay? But it's probably a VEI 8 event. So here's from the YouTube video, biggest volcano eruption comparison on the Earth. And this is one of the volcanoes of Yellowstone that happened way back when. And this is another one. This is another 8. So both of these are 8s and they're in different sizes. And then here also is a third size 8 volcano right here. And this right here is a 7. This little tiny one compared to these huge ones are a 7. Now this is an 8, but this is also an 8, and this is also an 8. So that is something to consider. So it could 8s, that's the top of the scale. So it's going to be something that's going to be probably absolutely crazy. All right, so there you see the number 7 compared to what an 8 looks like. The 8 is just a monster. And again, here's another close-up of an 8 compared to another 8 compared to a 7. So the 8 range can be like this or like that. It's just absolutely huge. Joel 2:31, the sun will be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the coming of the great and awesome or dreadful day of Yahweh. And so that's going to be likely a volcano that's going to do this, cause it to happen like that. So now let me go ahead and show you this old school model of what the Thera volcano eruption looked like, and also the tsunami model that happened from the 1600 BCE eruption of the island of Santorini. So you saw that tsunami. It was like 100 meters high in one part, and it completely wiped out the surrounding islands and everything else. The model didn't show the islands being moved from their place. We have seen other VEI 7 eruptions on islands, and they have not removed other islands or changed other islands around. This is going to probably be a VEI 8 event. These are some of the VEI 7s right here. Not many of them, I don't think, are recorded. You have the Minoan eruption. But this is something that's interesting because this is the list of the VEI 8 size events right here. I don't know if there's more, but this is only a few of them. There's only a few VEI 8s. But just recently in 2024, another VEI 8 eruption was discovered. It's called the Archaeos Tuff. So here you have the Fish Canyon Tuff, Huckleberry Ridge Tuff, the Lava Creek Tuff, Orunui eruption, the youngest Toba eruption, which is that huge one that you saw in that chart. So there are not a lot of eruptions of these VEI 8 events, but this Archaeos Tuff eruption was just discovered in 2024, and it is also a VEI 8 event, and this needs to be noted. This is just recently discovered. Where is the location of the Archaeos Tuff? Here is a picture of the Archaeos Tuff, the underwater. The tuff is this bluish green or the pinkish peachish color is like 15, 40, 160 meters. That's the thickness of it. On the seafloor in the Aegean Sea. What you're looking at right here is on around the island of Santorini or Morgos Island. Shout out to Stephen Burns, YouTube channel Stephen Burns, on that information and putting that out there. So this means Santorini has had a VEI 7 event this size, and it's also had a VEI 8 event either this size or this size. There is no size reference, so that is something to consider. Santorini has had a huge explosion way back when. We don't know exactly when, but a long time ago. I am a young Earth creationist, so I hypothesize that when Elohim created the Earth, Elohim did so where it was in a state as if it already had happened. That big VEI 8 index volcano had already happened, but that was just in the state of it. I'm not a geologist, so I can't say exactly what's going on there. But we do know that it happened well before the Thera volcano eruption in 1600 BC. So here is an image of the South Aegean volcanic arc. So you have Santorini, and then you have Colombo, but there are other volcano islands on this arc that you can see here. This is very important to understand. Here's another graphic of the Aegean Sea Plate. This is the Aegean Sea Plate right here. Okay, you have an outer non-volcanic arc right here going from Rhodes down to Crete and all the way up this side to the Ionian Islands. And here you have the active volcanic arc, which is where Santorini is. And this is really important because all of the earthquakes that we're seeing right now is all happening here in the volcanic arc, not in the outer non-volcanic arc. So that's important to understand. And what's going on is the African plate is pushing up and underneath the Aegean Sea Plate, which is causing pressure to come up here and push the magma to the surface. This is what geologists are saying. So this Archaeos Tuff is a VEI 8, and it happened in Santorini way before the VEI 7 Thera volcano in 1600. They're all old Earth, so we don't have an exact date. So it's important to note that this Archaeos Tuff happens right here in the Christiana, Santorini, Colombo volcanic field. This is a volcano right here that's underwater. The Christiana volcano is submerged. Then you have Santorini, which is a volcano, and you have this Colombo volcanic field. This is Colombo volcano right here, and then you have all these little tiny volcanoes over here. But this is the volcanic field, and this is where all the earthquakes right now are all happening. They're all happening between the Morgos Island and Santorini, all in this area. It's happening in this Morgos basin over here, in this basin right here. This is where they're happening, and this is a volcanic chain. So likely the magma that was under Santorini has now moved along, and something's happening here. And right now I want to draw your attention to Colombo, because it's very important. Colombo, the submersible volcano right here, just off of Santorini. It's just a couple of miles off of Santorini, like 3.5 miles off of Santorini. And yesterday I was looking at the data, and I recognized this. Nobody else has brought this up, but there was literally a 4.6 earthquake in the epicenter of Colombo volcano at a depth of 10 kilometers. Also, there were other volcanoes that happened. There was about 5 other volcanoes. A 5.3 happened over here. Okay, so here's where the 5.3 earthquake happened. This has been the biggest earthquake of this entire swarm. It just happened on February 4th. The 4.6 that happened inside happened on February 6th in the morning time. So this 5.3 happened here just south of this huge cluster. And this is the biggest earthquake yet of all of the earthquakes that's happened to date. And it's right here next to this volcano. And so this is why it's likely a volcanic earthquake, not a tectonic earthquake. And a couple other 4.6s all in the south area. This is very important. All right, so just recently, like on February 4th, after that 5.3, here's the 5.3 right here. This is the 4.6 on February 6th. Here, this was also 4.6 on February 6th. This was a 4 point something on February 6th. So you have these other big 4.6s. These are all happening at about 10 kilometers deep. All of these are happening at the same depth, which is a big problem because there could be a big magma chamber that's causing these things to happen. So this could be a really big problem developing. All at a depth of 10 kilometers is where this is happening. So this is really interesting, the location of these recent earthquakes that are moving closer to Santorini, all at the depth of 10 kilometers. I'm not a geologist, but I can at least understand some information and recognize information when I see it. So you can see now Santorini to Amorgos Island is about 28 miles. Right here you can barely see it, but this right here is a Colombo underwater volcano, and this is where Google is saying all of these earthquakes are happening. Here's a picture that I took while on the island of Santorini, and this is a picture that I took, and you can see how close these islands are. This island is the island Eos, which is only 12 miles away. This is Naxos, Araucaria, and Keros Islands. These are about 3 different islands right here, 25 to 35 miles away. And then over here you can barely see it. It's very faint, but under the atmosphere, right down here is Amorgos Island, 28 miles away. So this island right here, you can see the tip of this island in this picture, 28 miles away. You can see it right here. And why is this so important? I don't know if you can see it, but there's a cruise ship right here leaving. And so about 3.5 miles out is the Colombo volcano, right about as far as that cruise ship. That cruise ship's probably 3.5 miles away. And right here, is right here, somewhere underneath that water, is this active volcano. And this is where these volcanoes are happening. You can literally see, if you're on Santorini, the maps aren't doing it justice, but you could literally see where the volcanoes are happening. It's so close to the island. It's crazy. So there you have it. It's so close, more than what you think from the news. These islands, this earthquake swarm is happening all between Santorini right here and Amorgos in this area of the sea that you see. And some geologists are saying that it's tectonic, while others are saying that it is likely it's volcanic. Earthquakes you see these fault lines where the earthquake is happening, but you're now seeing earthquakes happen outside of these fault lines, and it's possibly likely or volcanic, especially considering it's the 70th Jubilee. So right now I want to read Psalm 46, verse 1 through 3. To the chief musician for the sons of Korah, a song upon Alamoth. Elohim is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore will not we fear, though the earth be removed, and though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea, though the waters thereof war and be troubled, though the mountains shake with the swelling thereof. Selah. So this is speaking of a prophecy. Mountains are going to be removed. Okay, the earth is going to be removed, and the mountains are going to be carried into the midst of the sea. What mountains are we talking about? The mountains that are here on the coasts, on the eastern Mediterranean coast that are going to come in? Is it talking about the mountains of Turkey that are going to fall into the sea? Talking about the mountains around the Peloponnese and in mainland Greece that are going to fall into the sea? Some mountains somewhere are going to fall into the sea. John identified these mountains as these islands in the book of Revelation, and it could be these mountains or these islands that are going to go into the sea. These islands right here that he could be talking about that are going to be going into the sea. Just look at Rhodos Island right here, the island of Rhodes. Look, you can see how deep it is by this color blue right here on Rhodes Island. Look how steep that is. What if that gave way and it fell literally into the sea? If the island of Rhodes slipped and this gave out and it fell into the sea, it would create almost a bigger tsunami probably than a VE8 eruption. It would make the huge tsunami if the island of Rhodes slipped and fell into its own basin, and it would be just catastrophic all along the coast, and even in Cyprus, it would probably flood. The tsunami would come over. It would be absolutely horrible. That is something to consider. Now, I personally see the island of Cyprus is the daughter of Tyre in Psalm 45. So the island of Cyprus, I believe, is going to be safe, but there will be judgment coming to the island in the form of these tsunamis, likely. But that's just my best hypothesis that I understand, and that might be because I have bias in it. By no means am I saying that Cyprus is going to get a full pass. That's not what I'm saying at all, but I do believe that judgment's going to happen here on this island, but I just believe that there will be survivors here on the island of Cyprus. So that's just something to consider if these islands fall into the sea, especially such a deep trench, this deep basin right outside Rhodes. If that breaks and slips and falls under, I mean, it's going to be catastrophic, even on the island, parts of the island of Cyprus. So, again, we're at this time of judgment. We're in the 70th year of Jubilee. The 10th day of the first month is a big time. That's when the Israelites crossed the Jordan, entered in. Joel chapter 2, verse 31. Again, the sun will be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the coming of the great and awesome, great and dreadful day of Yahweh. And it's likely going to be a mega eruption from a mega volcano, or they call them super volcanoes, and it'll likely be something that we can't even fathom. So check out this video on the Song of Moses. And now, again, in this video, I hypothesize it could have been the big island, Hawaii. Someone else left me a comment about the axial seamount off the Oregon coast. Could also be Yellowstone. It also could be Iceland or some other big volcano that's an island somewhere possibly. And it could be Santorini also. I might have mentioned Santorini in this video. That was over 2 weeks ago before these earthquakes started happening. So it's just something to pay attention to and to think about. So real quick, I'm going to possibly have time to do a video on the big island of Hawaii, but you all need to know that the highest mountain in the earth is, as we know, is Mount Everest. But if you measure from the sea floor, from the seabed, all the way up to the top of Mauna Kea, the big island in Hawaii, it is taller than Mount Everest. It's actually a bigger mountain than Mount Everest. Yahweh said he's going to kindle a fire in the depths of hell, okay, and light basically the base of the mountains on fire. I have to look at that in Deuteronomy 32 again. But that would be talking about magma chambers under this huge mountain here, which could go off and it could make a mega tsunami, and it would just take out all the west coast of the U.S., Japan, everything, wipe everything out. We don't understand where and how this is going to work. You know, I just say, pray that you're counted worthy to escape and stand before the Son of Man. That's how I best can say. So, brothers and sisters, I hope that you're blessed by the information in this video. Santorini volcano prophecy in the book of Revelation. Judgment coming, ? And so I hope to make another follow-up video. I hope that you're blessed. And shalom to all my brothers and sisters out there who have the testimony of Messiah Yeshua and guard his commandments. Shalom to you.